Hi, I'm Graham. Welcome back to the Amiga Cave. It's actually been about a year since I did my last video, and in that time I have to report the Amiga Cave is no more. It is now the Commodore Cave. I've expanded into all the other Commodore computers that I can get my hands on, and today I'm going to give you a bit of a walkthrough with the computers I have. Well, it seems only right to start off with the oldest computer that I own. That's the Commodore CBM model 4016. This computer was made in 1979. The standard model came out with 16K of memory. This one actually has 32K. The on switch is on the back of the computer, and when you turn it on, something really interesting happens. The chirp, trademark. It's a green screen. Comes up with Commodore Basic 4.0, 31746x3, and ready to go. Fantastic to see that on a computer at that age. The other thing that I think is really interesting about this computer is, just like the hood on a car, you can simply open it, put it in, and you have access to the inside of the computer. And isn't that lovely? Of course, these days you don't need discs or tape drives. The software, all the games, programs are available on the internet, copied onto an SD card and then plugged into this device called the PET disc, which plugs directly into the port on the back of the Commodore PET. And all your software is available as device 8. Very convenient. Next we have the Amiga 2000. This computer came out around 1990. This model I have here, it's had a few upgrades. It's got a GVP 68030 accelerator in it, which gives it a nice burst of speed. It's also got some extra memory. There's a 4 megabyte GVP memory card plus a 2 megabytes of extra fast RAM in it. And it's also got an A2086 bridge board, CD-ROM, and I've moved the power switch, or I've added a power switch here because it's impossible to get to the back of it in this configuration to turn it on. So if I want to switch it on, it's just simply a matter of, and we have life. It's running Workbench 1.3. Interestingly, I've got quite a few computers. I've also got 3 monitors. This one here is an LCD monitor that I recently picked up, which gives rather a nice display, even though it's coming up in black and white. Next to it I have a 1084, and to the left of that an even older Commodore 1802. I can easily switch between these with my, we'll switch it down here, so I can switch from that to this one to that one with the flick of the switch. I can also switch between the mice and joysticks by using these plugs down here. There's the mouse and joystick. Next to that we have the Amiga 4000. This was the last Amiga that Commodore produced in 1992. It's running a 68030 chip, has 140 gigabyte hard drive in it, 256 meg of big RAM card, plus another 16 meg of fast RAM and a 2 meg chip RAM. It's got the T8 CD drive in it. Unfortunately they didn't put PCM-CIA slots in these computers, so I've added a Rapid Road USB controller which goes into the back there. That gives me Ethernet, and I can plug in a USB, which is very cheap and affordable way of getting data backwards and forwards from it. Rather handy. The Amiga 4000 is running OS 3.9. Space is at a premium in my study, so sitting on top of the 4000 is my trusty Amiga 1200. And this is the computer that I first bought when I decided to get back into the Commodore Amigas in 2012, and I spent a long time and a lot of effort getting this computer up to the maximum that I could. It's running a ACA 1231 68030 CPU with 64 meg of RAM. It's got a 160 gig hard drive in it, and this does have a PCMCIA slot with Ethernet, so that's very handy hopping on the internet. It's also got an InDivision AGA Mark II flicker fixer in it for a high def video, and a number of compact flash cards which were very handy as well. These, and lots of information on those. The largest card I've managed to get working on this is a 32 gigabyte card, and that works fine. Stuck in the corner we have the very elegant Commodore Amiga 3000, beautiful computer. This one has a 68030 processor in it, and it's also got the 256 big RAM upgrade as well. Back to 1985 and the classic 182D Commodore. So the 182, there are two models. It's the 182 desktop. This one has built-in disk drive in it, very elegant again. Looks a lot like the Amiga 1000, which wasn't released just at this point, and still running very nicely. Not quite finished yet. I have one more computer here. Underneath the desk, this pulls out. I'm sure most people will recognise this, the famous Commodore 64 breadbox. Most popular personal computer ever made. And this was actually the very first Commodore computer I ever did own, or the first computer full stop I ever did own, back in about 1985. Back down on here, plugged in, ready to go, switch it on, and up comes the famous Commodore 64 screen. Back about 1986 I stumbled across a game that really captivated my imagination. That drew me into the Amigas later on when it came out in that version, and it's also one of the driving forces that encouraged me to go back to Amigas and Commodores in 2012. This is the game. Of course, I do have the trusty old tape drive. Couldn't have a Commodore 64 without that, could you? And I've also got the original floppy disk drives for it. This is a 1571. However, in this day and age we don't need to go to that format if we don't really want to, because we have a much better way of doing it with the SD card reader. All the software that you could ever possibly want is available over the internet for free on the card, and that becomes disk drive 8, just like a normal drive, with thousands of programs on it. There's one more Amiga that I use, and that's a software emulator. This is running OS 4.1. The only reason I'm doing that is because I can't justify the price to get the hardware to run this software. But it doesn't do a bad job, I've got to say. So they're the main computers that I have set up and regularly use. I've also accumulated quite a few peripherals over the years, and I regularly switch these on and use them. I'm always on the lookout for something unusual, something different that I haven't seen before. And it's amazing how many actually come up. There's the plan for my collection there, all the jigsaw puzzle pieces I've put together. And then over on this side of the study I have some more that I plug in when I have inclination. It's the Amiga 600. All these are expanded with extra memory and accelerators, and that came in this beautiful box. Sorry about the shine, trying to get off there. Absolute work of art. This here is the Amiga 500 with the sidecar. Again, that's got extra memory expander in it, and that one came with a box as well. Next to that we have the Commodore 64 joystick. This comes with 30 games built into it. Plug it straight into the TV. This one's new old stock, never been used, except for me to test to make sure it worked, and quite handy. Over here, the beloved Amiga 1000, my first Amiga. Not this particular one, but one just like it. It's coming with the full-size full-size floppy drive, plus a slimline as well, the original software. I've got a super hard drive for it, which is not playing the game at the moment, so I'm going to have to do a bit of work with that to get it going. Next door to that, we have got the CD TV with a couple of controllers on it. Handy little device. Commodore brought this out rather late, wasn't a success for it. And another one here, this is the CD32, supposedly the very first CD 32-bit machine in the world, which it actually wasn't. There was an earlier one in Japan, but basically almost impossible to find. So for all intents and purposes this will do. Box that I've made up for it because I couldn't get the original one. I've also got Commodore 128 box there, a couple of the joysticks, nice one. Over this side we've got the SX64 Commodore, very nice machine. This was purported to be the first portable coloured computer in the world, which I believe is true. It works perfectly. Comes in with its own built-in drive and a small colour screen. No battery, of course, had to be plugged into mains. Got the manuals for that as well. And next to that we've got the Commodore Plus 4. This came with 4 programs built into it which were all rubbish: a word processor, spreadsheet, graphics and a file manager. Complete garbage, but they did run the software that you get, and you can still download off the internet. And you can use the SD card reader as well in any of these Commodores, which is very handy. 1984 I believe this one came out. Quite a nice little machine, for what it was. Next to that we have another bread box, because I wanted to keep one out on static display all the time. I think it started with this, so this is where it needs to be, with some rather famous software in there as well. Englishman. And here we have one of the original pen printers that came out with it. I actually owned one just like this back in the day in about 1988, even early 86. It has 4 pens in there that actually write. We have a 1541 floppy disk drive as well, and the floppy disks. And I managed to pick this up the other day over eBay, quite amazing, new old stock. They're inserts to clean the 1541 drive, never used, sitting in there. You never cease to amaze me what you can find. Moving right along, we have a Commodore 64C. These, for all intents and purposes, are exactly the same as the original Commodore 64. They changed the design to make it look sleeker, whiter, and they did change a couple of the chips in there as well, but performance-wise you wouldn't know the difference. A Commodore 803 printer as well, nice condition. Back over here we have a Commodore 128 desktop. All of these functioning perfectly. Just to mix it up a little bit, a new old stock Commodore watch, LCD watch, probably one of the first ones that ever would have come out. And this is interesting, this is actually the oldest Commodore anything I've got. It's a calculator that I got from France. It still works. Comes up with its display. I'm pretty sure the maths still work on it, which is good. And that actually came in boxed as well. So that was a real pickup, very pleased to get that. Next door to that we have got the VIC-20. Came out about the same year as the 64, so that had a bit of a problem competing with it. And again, boxed as well. This is quite interesting, some original paddles. This quick shot joystick, or quick shot mouse I guess, for want of a better word. Rather a monster. Next to that we've got the Commodore 16. That was a El Cheapo version. Supposed to be an entry-level computer. I believe they were giving those away because they had trouble selling them. But came with this nice box too. Box is always a bonus. And over here we've got the data set that goes with it and a joystick. Down here we've got a couple of the Commodore printers back from the day. This was the Star NX1000 and I owned one of these back in the late 80s. Cost me $400, which was a bargain. I think we did a deal for those. Fabulous little noisy printer, but they never stopped. Cutting edge for the time. An Okimate as well. A Computech. And a Commodore MPS 801. She's an old girl. Just to finish it off, boxes full of cables and plugs and switches. Loads of floppy disks and CDs. And software that I've never actually even plugged in. It's just come with the computers that as I've picked them up. One of these days hopefully I'll get into it. And quite a few books that I'm going to read when I get the time, which will probably be never. But I have to say I've saved one of the best for last. I've actually done a video on this separately. It's my new old stock Amiga 1200. So these computers were actually left in storage in India back in 1994. They were found, came back on the market again for a very short time, about 2012. I was very fortunate in managing to get hold of one. They are new computers. The box is reconditioned, rebuilt from me, but the computer itself is still brand new. Turned on to make sure it works and to put a hard drive in it, and that's it. All the documentation, the Amiga kit, it's upside down. That's the software pack that comes with it. And beautiful brand new Amiga 1200 computer. And a few odds and ends to go with it, all brand new. New drives, new mice, all the software that I could replicate for it, that I could get hold of in there, came with it. Scala. So that's a look at the Commodore Cave. I hope you found it interesting. If there's anything that you've seen here today that you'd like a more detailed look at, drop me a message over YouTube and I'll be happy to look into it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.